Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with veteran LA-based jazz singer Marilyn Scott. We caught up with her to talk about her career in jazz, COVID living, and her new 2022 CD, The Landscape. This is her 13th album as a leader, born out of a determination to create during the global pandemic. She is best known for her Grammy-nominated work as a contemporary vocalist and even a songwriter. As the years have progressed, she's gone deeper into the jazz writing and interpretations. She has great stories. Enjoy this tale.
Marilyn, thanks for taking a minute out for Neon Jazz today. I appreciate it.
Oh, it's wonderful. I'm always glad to talk about the music that I get to make.
Absolutely. So, speaking of your latest album, The Landscape, it's coming out now as, kind of the world is coming out of COVID, more live shows, probably a pretty good time to release live music. So overall, how does this release feel for you?
Well, the only thing I wished that I was doing was playing, along with it. But, that just wasn't possible right now. So I'm trying to gain some momentum with the project, and then that's going to help me play some musical gigs coming up in the winter and all of next year. So, gosh, I really look forward to that and play with some of the musicians that played on the project and wrote with me. So, but I feel like I've had some great response to it, and that's always encouraging. I mean, because I really, when you create something, you don't expect the expectation should be whatever happens. I think that's a great way to be, and I think you should always just, not obsess, kind of let it go, and because when you're working on it and you're creating it, that's when you sort of get into that mood where you obsess, trying to get it to the best place it could be, that original idea, right? So I think the response has been really good, and I'm just really happy.
So speaking of COVID over this time that we've had, what did you learn about yourself over this basically 2-year lull of things that maybe you didn't realize before that's going to make you stronger now?
I think the resilience of all the people around me, family, people you stood in line with, people, where you couldn't even see their expressions, because of the mask. You read their eyes, their demeanor. I think it gave me a great deal of hope about, us as a people, how we treat each other. I thought that was very encouraging. We kind of got away from that now, a little bit, but it's funny what kind of a disaster will do. It brings people together, and it's a hopefulness that is really good, and really, as long as it can last up, we can work out some great problems.
How did this jazz journey begin for you?
I go back to when my mother played Nat King Cole records, and she played piano, classical piano, and then I got into a lot of R&B pop radio, and then I moved up to San Francisco Bay Area, and the radio stations up there, FM stations, were incredible. They played a lot of different kinds of genres next to each other, and it helped widen the arc of what music was really about, because really music is all about everything. It is. It's all connected, and I really appreciated that at that time. It kind of woke me up to a lot of things. When you hear John Coltrane next to, the Spinners or something, it starts to really, you can put the dots together. And then I was able to get involved with a lot of incredible musicians that their lives were marching towards, the greater depths of jazz. And I got to kind of go along with that. And I played piano a little bit, but not in a performance way, but in a writing way. And it's been a great journey. I've been able to work with a lot of incredible jazz people, and that's kind of how it started.
So, in our lives, the live show that we witness is a big, big deal. In the beginning, what was your first live jazz show that really blew you away?
Playing music is one thing in bands, and trying to get your grip on who you are as an artist and as a writer, but really getting to a place where you can't, you really can't believe that they're responding to your writing, and you're playing with musicians that are bringing your music up to a greater depth, and that would probably, be in the 90s, because I've been through a lot of different kinds of labels and situations that people wanted me to be, maybe push me in a direction that wasn't quite what I was after. But a lot of us were told that, if you do this kind of music, then you'll be able to have the power to do what you want to do. I think in the 90s, when I was on Warner Brothers, I really was able to reach for a performance and with people around me that it was pretty encouraging that what I was trying to get to was real and valid.
So, this being your 13th album, I'm curious, what is it that you like to do with each subsequent release? Is it about evolution? Is it about capturing what's going on at the time? What's kind of your arc of how you approach artistically each new project?
Well, in the past, because I had this idea about jazz that I had to, I had to attain something. I had to grow into it and get, because I appreciated it so much that I needed to be really valid in it in order to really shine. But it changed a little bit. People wanted you to sing standards and things like that, and I did. And I usually would include a couple of standards on a record where I would write the music, and then I would include a couple of standards like, tunes that I thought that hadn't been overdone and had a very interesting way of being presented, or, as they were written, that they had a lot of avenues, ways that you could go and present the tune. I've always tried to include that because that's part of the swing of jazz in a sense. It's always the thing where you're trying to please the label a little bit, and I look to this particular one. Everything is in a direction that I saw of what people were going through, and and we were kind of stuck, in a COVID time, and so it became something quite different than I've done before. I don't think I've ever tried it this way because we really didn't record in the studio.
So who would you consider mentors for you? Who's been a big influence, maybe some voices from the past that resonate for you in your career?
Well, without a doubt, George Duke was a big force. And, we became friends from the time we met. We met in San Diego at the jazz festival down there. And then he got interested and we started writing, and he was a great influence on me, and I miss him so much. And I think I grew up with Russell Ferranti in a way. We met back in San Jose where he lived back in the 70s, and I was just playing with a band, and met him at a pizza parlor he was playing. And he and I started to write, and then I met Jimmy Haslip through when they started the Yellow Jackets. So they've been with me the whole time, and we've written so many things together. And the Yellow Jackets particularly have been, a great mentor and a great influence on my life.
So, every day you wake up, you have the chance to do this thing that you love to do, creating music. What is it that you like the best about being a professional musician?
Well, I think playing live music with people is just really fantastic. And whoever that, recipe is going to be, because it always changes, the drummer's always going to change, the bass player's always going to change. And with that, the music's going to change. And that's exciting. I think that the best part of writing music and everything is just to see that evolve and see what's going to happen with it, and not to be locked in. I mean, there was a time that, you go, it's got to be played just like the chart, but that was, I think that's being afraid to step outside the box, So it's playing live and hearing your music, and that's in that way.
So speaking of live music, now that we are getting back to it, I know that LA was affected. There were clubs that closed down. I know even in Kansas City, the landscape changed quite a bit. But I think collectively as a community of musicians, how do you see jazz, the community of jazz musicians reemerging stronger?
Well, the younger musicians that are happening now, I mean, that's encouraging, I think, and places like Berkeley has brought in some incredible musicians. I think people have found a way through places like the Berkeley School of Music to find themselves and be encouraged in a way that a lot of us didn't have that. So I thought I really dig listening to Joey Alexander and Brad Mildown, people that surround themselves with new voices of musicians and really try to understand where, how they came to that, and it makes you want to do the same.
So talk to me a little bit about what you hope we all realize as we all kind of get back to the live music environment. What do you hope we all realize about the power of live music? I mean, ultimately, I think we all understand community in a different way, but what do you hope we really genuinely get about this magic of live music?
I don't think that there's anything I could add to the personal experience that you're going to get. I mean, there's just nothing like it, being in front of live musicians playing and being inspired by each other. It speaks for itself, and I encourage everybody to do that, and it changes you, and that goes for all the arts. Being in front of a painting, being in front of dancers, it really is magical, and you can capture it a little bit on film, but there's nothing like seeing it live.
What about a dream gig? If you could get into a time machine and go back in time and catch any musician anywhere, who are you going to go see?
That's a good one. Never thought of that. That's a good one. I've never really thought of the time machine thing. I think it was pretty exciting how the big bands, not that I'm into big bands, but I mean, I really appreciate big bands, but big bands offered so many great musicians, and with a singer, that's pretty, and then somebody writing an unbelievable arrangement, that's pretty exciting. And so I could step back into time and watch Duke Ellington with Ella Fitzgerald or something like that. That would be kind of cool.
Fans, but ultimately you live your life. You have a perception of you. Who do you think you are?
Well, I would just want to be able to observe life a little bit and be articulate enough to write about it in a way that people see themselves, and I don't mind doing that with other people's music as well. So I see myself as hopefully somebody that's growing in that and has grown in it, and that I can leave something behind that can be reinterpreted. That's what I'd like to do.
So if you have a dream tonight and you run into your younger version, in your 20s, and really starting out in the business, and you could give your younger version one piece of advice based on the wisdom that you've accumulated through all the years, what would you tell that younger version?
I would probably tell my younger version to play more instruments and take some of those gigs that you turned down. Yeah.
Perfect. Marilyn, thank you. I appreciate you taking time out. Good luck with the album, The Return to the Chase.
Joe, thank you so much. Yeah, I really appreciate it as well, and I wish you well with everything, and I hope we meet.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest singers in Los Angeles, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. Thanks to Marilyn for her time, music, and story. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino in the iTunes Store. Visit neonjazz at youtube.com, and for everything Neon Jazz, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.